Well, my name is Blair McKiethan. I am a professional golfer who has been playing tournament golf all over the world for the last 5 years, but taking a little bit of a backseat to caddy for my friend this year named Corey Shaun out on the DP World Tour. And when I'm not doing that, I'm making YouTube videos for Pete and AmateurGolf.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cobra Golf, a leader in golf innovation. Let's talk about their groundbreaking DS Adapt line of drivers, fairways, and hybrids, featuring the revolutionary Future Fit 33 technology. This system offers 33 unique loft and lie settings, allowing golfers to adjust loft and lie independently by plus or minus 2 degrees. This unprecedented adjustability lets you fine-tune your ball flight for optimal launch, speed, and control. Cobra's commitment to innovation doesn't even stop there. They've introduced a 3D Tour irons fully 3D printed from stainless steel. This cutting-edge manufacturing process creates intricate lattice structures within the club head, reducing weight by 33%. The saved weight is redistributed to the low center of gravity and increased forgiveness, resulting in irons that offer the feel of a player's blade with the stability of a game improvement iron. Experience Cobra's DS Adapt clubs with Future Fit 33 technology and 3D printed irons to take your game to the next level. Visit CobraGolf.com to learn more.
I'm going to introduce Blair McKiethan. He does video and other club reviews for AmateurGolf.com, but I've never quite figured out where you are these days, Blair. I don't even know where you are right now. So welcome to the AmateurGolf.com podcast, Blair McKiethan. And why don't we lead off with, where the heck in the world are you?
Well, right now I'm currently in Osaka, Japan.
Okay. And Blair, you are an amazing player. We have a video of you shooting 66 at Olympic Club, sight unseen. You are one of the original guys on YouTube teaching the game. You love everything about golf. You're a pro golfer. What switched you over these days to caddying? And tell me about who you're caddying for. What tour are you on right now?
So first off, what switched it over is that I've been playing on the Alps Tour the last 2 years. It is basically Europe's version of PGA Tour Canada or Latin America. So their third level tour out there, and I've never gotten off the tour. And it's been obviously an expensive venture, as you can imagine, traveling around and playing for virtually no money. Not that I haven't enjoyed it. I've loved every second of it. I've got to see some incredible places all over the planet. I've met a lot of my best friends out there. But my good friend Corey Shaun, as many in the golf world might have known, towards the end of last year, was just crushing it all over the place in all the Q schools. He had a 5-shot lead in the first round of PGA Tour Q school in the final stage. He shot 61 in the opening round when the scoring average was like 73. So, you know, we've been pretty close, and it's been kind of floated about the me caddying for him. Since he got his European Tour card before he got his Corn Ferry Tour card, and then he didn't make the PGA Tour. He missed it by 2 shots, and I'm sure if he got in the PGA Tour, he would have hired an actual caddy. But for DP World Tour, he wanted somebody who's been around that area, and which is what I have been doing the last 5 years. And I felt like I would get better at golf caddying for him and watching and playing with really high level players. And I'd also make more money than I ever would playing on the Alps Tour. So it's kind of a best of both worlds. And thankfully, I still have my Alps Tour card, so I'm able to play in a couple events. I actually have one in 2 weeks in Austria. So it's kind of mixing between the both. My clubs are not with me right now. I had a tournament in Austria about 3 weeks ago, and I left my clubs there at a golf course. I have a lot of friends out there, so when I come back, I'm going to pick up my clubs, play in the tournament, and then we go right to the next DP World event, 3 straight weeks in a row.
You are an Energizer bunny. I don't think you understand what jet lag is. You
Oh,
do, but
definitely do.
I don't think you understand it. That actually is a perfect segue. I was going to ask you a couple of questions about. Give me just a little bit more info on Corey. Where did he played at San Diego State or USD? Tell me about
You
Corey
played at
Shaun.
UCLA.
UCLA. Okay, and you and he became friends around the last few years.
Yeah, I think
Or
maybe 2019 or so, he was playing out in China. Got introduced through a mutual friend of mine who's now the first assistant coach out at Northwestern. His name's Sam Chen. He's a really close friend of mine. And so they both played in China together, and then that's kind of how we met. And we've been playing golf, playing dice rolls and gambling with each other ever since. So I've seen
Yeah,
his
you're a lot of
game
fun.
really
A lot
flow
of fun to.
through. Oh, thank you.
Why don't you say that again? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, I've seen his game kind of progress from the ups and downs to the extremely high level that it's at now, and I felt like I wanted to be a part of that. He won't ever admit it, but I think he can win a tournament this year, and I kind of really want to be a part of that.
So now I'm starting to become part of the fan club here. I want to know more frequently where you are. I don't want to be guessing, and so we'll have to do that because we've got. I was just up at Goat Hill Park today in Oceanside, where Xander has played, and there's the friendships that are formed. This San Diego is one of the hotbeds of golf, and it's not just Phil Mickelson and Charlie Hoffman. I mean, there are just players after players that have come from here, but Xander clearly achieving a lot of success out there. And as a player, you know what it takes. And I was going to ask you, and you kind of led into this, you feel like personally you bond with him, but also you see something in his game that you've told me you really think he can go out and not only win, but exceed and excel out there.
Absolutely. I have a lot of really good golfer friends, obviously, guys who played in Corn Ferry tours and, play PJ Tour events. And obviously I play a lot of golf with them when I'm home. And I'm not playing with you. I'm playing with other pros, and we're gambling and having a good time. And, I can compete with these guys, which is fun, but you do always know who's really got it. And a lot of my friends do have it, but I wouldn't have dropped everything I was doing, like a full season of tournament golf, like I would have played this year, to caddy for anybody else. You just kind of know, when someone's on the cusp of something really great. And if I could help them get to that level, then that was kind of what I really wanted to be a part of. I felt like I could help them, and yeah, now we're out here.
And there you are, Osaka, Japan, right?
Yeah, well, though that
So,
being said, I'm alone here in Japan. So we
okay.
spent the last 2 weeks in China. So we had a tournament in Shanghai, the Volvo China Championship, and it was really interesting. We're going to get into some details about like how the categories work on the DP World Tour, because they've kind of shifted and changed the last 2 years, and this year specifically has really, really hurt the Q school guys. Like, I hope this isn't a long-winded thing, but if you'd like to hear about it, I can tell you like how this year has gone in regards to our category, which has been something insane, and it leads into why I'm here in Osaka and not at home for this off week.
Yeah, I want to hear about it. And I also think maybe just before you segue into it, if you could tell the audience and me really a little bit about getting on the DP World Tour, which is we used to call the European Tour.
Hmm.
And I wasn't even familiar. I know they go a lot of places, but clearly there's a winter in most of Europe, so they have to find places to play to be a year-round tour. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that before you segue into this category? But we'd love to hear
Okay.
about how that works because a lot of people listening might wonder, is that a path for them? Like the young man from Sacramento that played on just about every tour in the world, and John Catlin. He's like an
Yeah,
example of
yeah.
a golfer that he's played every tour,
Yeah,
and
John
there's no.
Catlin's a special breed. He actually probably doesn't remember this, but when I first got on Alps tour, he helped me kind of figure out my visa to get into Europe during COVID time when we weren't allowed to go. So it was a he's also friends with my friend Sam Chan, who's a mutual friend to everybody in the world, it seems like. But anyways, yeah.
Nice.
So the DP World Tour, obviously now it's a world tour. I think it's more so playing all over the world than it was in the past. You know, in the winter time, I think the European tour could play a bunch of events in southern Spain and be just fine. But instead, we go to so the season started in Australia, which I did not caddy for, and with Corey went down there, made a cut and had a nice start, and then he went to Mauritius where we finished top 10, and then after Mauritius. Oh boy, where did it go after that? Yeah, after Mauritius ends up going to, I think, Dubai, for the Rolex Series events. So he didn't get into that one. And then there's the Ras Al Khaimah, which is also in, the United Arab Emirates, about an hour and a half north of Dubai. And then after that, you go to this all the Middle Eastern swings. So it kind of kicks off in Australia, shifts to a couple events, I think in South Africa, and then it goes to the Middle Eastern swings. And then so it goes to Bahrain, then Qatar, and then we get to Kenya, Nairobi, and then after that, we're it's kind of hard to keep track of all this stuff, to be honest. Yeah, then there's two events in South Africa. So a lot of the season starts all over the world and not in Europe. And I think if you are someone who wants to see the world and play golf, then this is the tour for you. But if you're someone who's not, you know, not good at handling jet lag and doesn't want to do long travel days, then it'll be very, very tough. So I think it takes a special kind of person for an American to play this tour, I think. And Corey is one of those guys who's able to go all over the place, have jet lag, and still perform.
Wow. Yeah. So you take Corey very seriously as you're caddying for him. He's your player,
Yeah.
right? So my question then is, okay, you've got this player. Are you responsible for his clubs? Is he responsible for his clubs? What happened when his clubs don't arrive? Tell us some logistical stories before we get into that, the real nitty gritty of how these categories work.
So he does have a responsibility of his club. So he obviously travels with them, so I don't think any golfer as a golfer would personally that I know of would trust anybody with their clubs. Like I'll always be it would be weird not to have them, you know. He actually did get his clubs lost because in a South Africa event right after Kenya because he has status on Corn Ferry Tour also. So we got done with Kenya and then he flew all the way to Argentina because we didn't think we were going to get into these South African events and it was very obvious that we weren't going to get into them. So I went home to San Diego. Corey goes to Argentina to play in the Corn Ferry event in Argentina and then go to Chile right afterwards, which is insane to me, uh, Kenya is a long way from Argentina, and so anyways, he went down there, plays in the event, and then finds out last second that he got into the South Africa event. And in our category, we don't really have the luxury of picking and choosing. If you're in, you got to go. So he skipped the event in Chile when he was ready to go there for Corn Ferry, and flew back to South Africa. And since it was so short notice, his clubs didn't make it. So he had to play with a rental set the first round. I think he shot like 4 or 5 over or something because he has 5 degrees flat on his irons. So like getting some random set is just not going to work. But he tried his best and then got his clubs the next day, shot a couple under, missed the cut, then flew all the way back to the United States. So like this was all within a week and a half, 2 week stretch. It's, unbelievable stuff. So I didn't make it to that South African event because that last second ticket would have been really, really expensive. And so it's cheaper just to get a local caddy. But, that just gives you an example. Like if you lose your clubs, you're pretty screwed out here.
And there's nothing there to play with. It's not like you're playing. I know the clubs are fairly nice golf clubs, but they're not. It's not Pebble Beach where you could rent a full set of clubs. And even then, how are you going to find 5 degrees flat? That is, for people that don't know what that means, most of our listeners probably do, but that is an extreme.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
means his hands are low relative to somebody that might hold them high. And
Yep.
I don't know how you would adjust to that, really.
You know
And
what?
obviously, it affected him.
I think if that happened in a tournament that was like a full blown DP World event in Europe somewhere where they have like tour vans, they could build something up really fast. And I know that the Callaway guys in South Africa did the best they could. And what he said was actually the thing that got him struggling the most was his putter because he's a great putter and his putter has a very specific feel to it and something different was I can imagine to be really tough. So he said that he struggled with putting more so than even the ball striking from the rental set.
Okay, so these are DP World Tour, and it's a major tour. Obviously, there's tour vans there for the most part, right? Unless something's very remote. I always wondered how lived golf, when it first started, how did people know the manufacturers know whether they were going to send a tour van out to places, especially with a limited field in some cases. Yep. And so why don't you expound on that a little bit because you're playing Callaway now and you like the line. How are they internationally? It's a very international company. Right. Callaway is. They're in everything.
I can actually give you the deets on that really well. So it's kind of varied from country to country so far. So for instance, when we were in Dubai, they had a whole area full of Callaway guys, Titleist, TaylorMade. They had shoes and golf balls and Scotty Camerons and stuff. And the reps are there they travel around with the tour, right? But like so, and like where there's like bigger hubs like Dubai is, that you get more stuff. Like you actually have like a designated spot for you to be. Same with Qatar, there was like a little room where all the Callaway guys hang out and they bend your clubs. But then you go to Kenya and it's just one guy who traveled with the golf balls, the gloves, some hats for the players, and that's just all they have. And you know, so you're not going to go to the putting green in Kenya and be able to pick out your Callaway, your Odyssey putter that day. But when you're in Bahrain, where it's close to a hub, they come in with their bags full of putters and they have their equipment to bend and reshaft things. But from what I saw, like in Kenya, that did not happen. I'm pretty sure the South African events are probably something maybe similar, depending on where it is. I think the one that Corey played in was a mix between the Sunshine Tour and the DP World Tour, so it was a really small first event. They might not have been there for that one, and that's why he couldn't get like the clubs completely dialed. But if that, like I said, if this happens in starting in Belgium, not after our next tournament, the one following, is when the tour vans are actually there. So all the European events, you'll get the tour vans driving from Belgium to the Netherlands to Austria, and then they have multiple reps and all the equipment and tech that you need. So it's just a little bit, I know it's a little bit more difficult or a lot more difficult logistically for these companies to do to go to these like smaller events in like Africa and where it's really far away from their center base.
Yeah, and how about just making a tee time? Transportation, planes, trains, and automobiles. Uh, I'm not looking for horror stories, but just in the travel. Give me some logistical stuff that happens, and then I also want you to talk to me a little bit about some of the characters. Let's we'll save the travel stuff for later, but I've really been thinking about the characters because you've described them to me one on one and told me about some of the accents and some of the language barriers. So, what's it like for an American and an American caddy playing in even Europe and where you're playing with when you play on the Alps tour or when
Hmm.
somebody's playing in a country where you really and tell me about some of these characters because you've described their swings. Some of them are homegrown and they're out there playing pro golf.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of characters on the DP World Tour. I caddied for Corey in the Bahamas earlier this year on the Corn Ferry Tour, and there's a different vibe between Corn Ferry Tour and DP World Tour. I think people on the DP World Tour are more relaxed and comfortable with where they are in their golf career, whereas like Corn Ferry is a lot of people are really stressed because you only have these handful of events to make something happen, right? Like DP World Tour has 42 tournaments, and if you keep your card, you're making a nice living out if you live in Europe, obviously. So you see a lot of people who joke around a lot, and a lot of groups of guys like the Spanish guys who joke and talk a lot of crap, and a lot more than smoke cigarettes than I thought that I would have seen. Like a lot of them, and I'm like, damn, I never would have thought this guy smoked cigarettes, and they're just, they're on the practice range just ripping, and you just don't see that on TV, right? So, I mean, we were in Bahrain, and it was getting ready to start our first round, and it was like cold and almost a little bit rainy, which was really surprising. And but like the first tee time is at 6:30, and it's like 6:15, and the sun isn't even out yet. And one of the guys for the first tee time, it started raining. We went into like where the Callaway box was, our little building, and it's like me, Corey, Marcel Seam, Patrick Reed, and a couple other guys. And then like Patrick Reed goes, "Do you think we're supposed to be playing? It's like still dark." And then Marcel Seam's like, he's German, he's like, pardon my language. He was like, "I'm not effing playing out here. I can't even see anything." He's smoking a
I
cigarette,
like
It's
him.
like, "I'm not playing. You can't get me to play. This is impossible." And then sure enough, 6:30 comes and they're on the first tee. So like little
That
things like
is
that were pretty funny.
Yeah, I guess. And these are big name players, and that you're there with, and they're facing the same
The
problems. Like,
same
how did they get
thing.
a 6:30 tee time? They just got put in that group. You would think they'd get a
Yep.
little premium treatment, but they
We
didn't.
got we actually Bahrain was fun, was probably my favorite tournament of the year so far. Obviously, Corey played decent. He finished like 30th, but on our final round, we had twosomes, and it was just me, Corey, Patrick Reed, and his caddy. So we got to play with Patrick Reed 1-on-1 for 4.5, 5 hours, and got to see his short game in person, which was beyond impressive. And Corey played well. He actually ended up beating him by three, and internally we were pretty happy about that because but he was surprisingly really, really nice, really friendly to us, happy to be around another American out there, And yeah, we all got along. We got along really well, and I think that's why Corey played really well. But a prime example of something that's funny that I think people don't think about. This is also back in the beginning of Bahrain, but we went there from Dubai, and then we're on this. They shuttle you. You know, those places. It's recommended, obviously, that you get the tournament host hotel, so that everything's taken care of for you. You don't have to rent a car or anything. So we're all in this bus, and we're driving, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. And Bahrain is, I think Bahrain was incredible. We were in their capital called Manama, really beautiful city. But we got into some traffic jam, and then there's this car and there's this full of all TP World Tour players, so top 200 players in the world, and we're all, just leaving from Sunday from the Dubai, and we're all in this car, and then there's this this car like cuts our bus off and like tries to squeeze in front of us, and then our bus driver honks the horn, and then they start yelling at each other, and he gets out and he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But they're swearing in Arabic, so like it sounds so they look like they're so mad, and they both got out of their car, and all everyone in this tour van are just like, is this actually happening? And I'm
Yeah.
laughing about it. Thankfully, nothing came to blows. But I was like, this is the only kind of thing that would. There's not a tour in the world where, other than the PGA Tour, where something like this you can avoid it. Like it was just a really funny feeling to know that there's top 200 players in the world. Some millionaires in this bus, and we're sitting here watching this bus driver almost get in a fight from road rage. And it's just kind of like
Right. No,
people don't think
not
of.
a high level of security, and it's a. I know it's a relatively safe country, but every country is less safe than your home country because you're
Mm,
not from there, and you don't know the customs, and you don't know what to do in some cases. So it sounds like it's a lot more luxurious than it used to be. My friend Lawrence Donegan, who is a very well, won't begin to talk about all his golf writing accolades, but he was a golf writer for the Guardian in London, and he got embedded on what was called just the European tour, and he
hmm
became a caddy. Gosh, I can't. Ross Drummond, I think, was the name of the player, and the guy agreed to have him out on the tour the whole year. As even though he was an unskilled caddy and just basically an everyday golfer. And the book he wrote, it's called Maybe It Should Have Been a 3-Iron, is an awesome read. You would enjoy it, actually. I'm gonna get you a copy. But why I say that is because in his book, the luxury wasn't there at all, and there were some of the same places that you're going to. But when he arrived, they were sleeping in they had a caravan and
Yeah,
things
they're
like
like on
that.
their
So
own.
yeah, and there was a whole pecking order of caddies, and there were several occasions where they were afraid of the weapons that were drawn. Now, when you go to these airports, it's different. I know, just going into Paris, into
Mm.
London, the security and everything is really right in your face.
Oh
And
yeah.
where have you seen that the most when you've been traveling?
Well, I have seen it obviously in Paris, the guys walking around with the big guns. Same with Rome. But I'd say the most, at least like the most pain of security for me personally is anything involving Turkey. Like you go through like three different securities. So you go security when you get into the airport, you go security once you check in, and then you go, depending on where you're flying, usually if you're leaving Turkey, you go through security one more time and to get onto the gate or onto the plane from the gate. And so I fly into Turkey a lot. It is a great airport. Like the international airport is beautiful, but it's just it's like an easy centralized hub to get from Asia to Europe, obviously, because it's right in the middle. But I do also often really dread my travel days through Istanbul, and I have one coming up literally in 2 days. So
Okay, all I
um,
have to worry about is the Orlando airport and all the Disney World,
yeah,
the tourists, and the shuttle, the dreaded Orlando shuttle. So
yeah.
I'm heading there to watch my son with Lawson's graduation, who
Oh,
my
nice.
son. Back to this though, really thinking about some of the things that you're doing and caddying out there. Give me some more something round situational. You're on the cut line. Maybe you have to hit a shot over water, and has there been any theatrics so far, like something that's happened that either you didn't think he had the shot, or you told him he had the shot and he really did, something like that?
Oh, it's as a caddy, it's really funny because like And also as like a professional golfer with different skill sets, like there's shots that I think I can hit under these situations when I'm watching him that like I would always go for this shot or whatever, and then like he would not. He plays more conservative because he hits it straighter and he's much better at putting than I am. So, but like and it's always like just like a small thing, but as a caddy, it kind of eats you up inside. But like we were in Bahrain on like our ninth hole, and he was 234 to the back pin, 212 to the front, and he's in the rough. But like if you hit it down this like shoot area, it was just a perfect hybrid for him. Like, I was like, you just need to get this thing anywhere remotely close in the air and anywhere straight, and if it lands 180, it's gonna roll up to the green. And like he didn't feel like he wanted to do it, but I was like, if even in decade, you're like decade golf, I'm like, you have to go for this green. The lie's not bad, just like trust it or whatever. And so I kind of really talked him into it because I was like, there's no way you're thinking about laying up from 212 to the front of the green. And then he hits it, misses the area to the left, gets in the bunker, then like dumps it in the bunker, leaves it in the trap, and then I think I don't know if he got up and down or not, but anyways, like afterwards you say like, yeah, I really felt like I should have laid up there. It's just kind of not my game to be that aggressive, and I was like, ah, it eats you up the rest of the day, like because you're like, damn, we're just tossing
Yeah.
the stroke. Thankfully, obviously, he made the cut that week, but we've had a caddy for him on three missed cuts. We just missed the cut in Heiko in China. We missed it by two, and like he was hitting it really nice, like more so than at any tournament I've seen. It was playing 76-50. Ball wasn't rolling. We had a lot of sticks irons in. He just didn't quite do it. He missed the cut by two. It's not like he played terrible, but it's hard as a caddy when your player in those moments because I don't know what to say. Like, do I try to pump him up? Like, oh, you got this, dude, or does he not want to hear that? Do you want to be quiet? Do you need to be quiet? But if you're quiet, does that mean he thinks that like I think he's playing bad? Like those little like mental games as a caddy are difficult. Because like I know what I would like, and I'm still in the learning process of trying to get him in the right headspace as much as I can. But he's also a very independent player and can do that stuff himself. But they just so trying to find that right balance is probably the most difficult part about caddying. I'm learning more about like how to club him and what kind of shots to get him into to make sure that he's comfortable with, which is usually on the more conservative route. But the highs and the lows is trying to manage emotionally that for both of us is the tricky bit.
Well, that's the book I talked to you about, and any caddy I've ever spoken to as a amateur golfer myself. When I take a caddy at Bandon Dunes, we try to talk to each other like, "What do you need? Do you want to?" I always, I have just a few little quirks. I don't want to read on a bogey putt. It's just my deal. I'll
Yeah.
just go it alone, right?
Yeah.
Because
And,
it probably doesn't mean anything.
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like a lot of people think that caddies just would be reading their greens and stuff for their players. That like he didn't ask me for one read in Heiko where we were just at, like not once. But then when we were in Bahrain where the greens were a little trickier, like he was asking me a lot. And but with him, like I said, he likes to take ownership of his own game, which makes my job obviously a lot easier. But like like I will read the putt, and what I told him basically right when I first started ever caddying for him, I said I'll read the putt with you, but I'll never like give you the information unless you ask me, because I don't ever want to say like I think it's right edge, and then he's like, what? It's like a ball out, and then he's confused. And
Yeah.
human eyeballs are different, right? So like we actually even trained together for a little bit, like to try to see where we're reading things. So like when we were in the Bahamas, it was grainy, and so if I thought a ball, I was like, okay, is the ball out? And then I'd aim or something, and then he'd be like, yeah, that's aimed like half a ball out. So like I see right lines a little higher and left lines a little lower, and vice versa. So like we kind of both mix it together. So when I see a right edge putt, then I'm like, okay, it's half a ball out, or one ball out. I'll be like, okay, it's a half a ball out, because that's what I think he will see. You know what I mean? So you're kind of like adjusting your language to how they view the putt. But again, he'll ask me if he needs it, and then but I'm always checking, so I know what I'm looking at, and so the information's in my brain when it happens.
Well, you're not caddying for him because you're not capable of caddying, but I think you're an amazing player, and I don't want to go through this podcast and not talk about your own skills, your own success, because there are caddies that do both. But I wonder, first of all, start it off by, are there other caddies that you know that are playing tours? Because that's a big juggling act, but you're doing it right now. Like I said, you're the Energizer Bunny, but and beyond that, tell me a little bit about what some of your success on the Alps tour. You had a pretty good run in the Audi circuit over
Did,
in, was
yeah.
that in Germany?
It
So
was
tell me
it was
something
in
about
Austria.
your own game.
Yeah, I don't know any other players. I know there's the guy who caddies for Angel Hidalgo Portillo, Spanish guy. He played on the Alps tour. I think my first year out there. He's not playing anymore, obviously, but like he's someone I know who's like a really good player. But I don't know anybody who's still like trying to play any tournament golf out there. They're kind of just focused on their guy. For me, in my case, like I don't have the luxury of going back and forth like Corey does, and I also wouldn't want to just because of jet lag and stuff. But like, so I'm gonna have weeks off in Europe. You know what I mean? So like, I might as well take advantage of the tour card that I have and go play. But I just recently played in the Audi circuit. It was my first tournament in 5 months. I finished ninth, which was nice and solid. I was in the lead after 2 rounds, and I was three back going in the last round, and then just kind of struggled. But like turned a nice profit, which was really important, especially figuring the situation I'm in now. So like, yeah, I shot a 68, two under 70, even par, and then like three over. But me, I played much better than I expected because it's not like I've been practicing. Obviously, I've been out here, traveling around, taking months off of my game, and then just go playing tournament golf, and it's still there. If anything, it's better now after seeing what I've seen and how the high level tour players play. And you take
Yeah,
that into, yeah.
yeah. Well, I've always felt that. I'm interrupt you, but I've always felt that there was when you were out caddying, even as a kid, I would caddy. 14 years old, 16 years old, and all I was thinking about is I see something either in their swing or just the hole that I'm playing, and I couldn't wait to play after. Now you do have a lot of energy at that age, and you're of an age that you've got a lot more energy than me. And I think the other thing, Blair, is I see that you absolutely love the game. Are the people you meet out there are they're trying to make a living, but are they in love with the game as much as you are, or do you feel like you're just a guy? Because I always felt Tiger loved golf. I mean, to take it to the top level. So where do you fall, and where do the other players you meet fall?
I actually think, I mean, I love the game for a lot of different reasons, but I don't have, uh, I don't know if I have the drive that a lot of these guys out here have. Like they are full blown, like I'll get done playing golf in a tournament, and I mean, this might be why I'm not in the big tour, but like when I'm done with the tournament round, and if I feel like, if I'm any kind of tired, I won't hit balls because I'm like, I'm not going to get any better hitting balls tired. I'll just go home and go to sleep. Or like if I get done with the tournament in Europe, I'm like, well, I'm going to go take a day off and go walk around Rome for the day, if I'm in like Italy. If Corey gets done with the tournament and there's a day off, he is full blown practicing. Like there's no, and this is the same for most of the guys out there. Not all of them. Some of them are much more feel oriented. Other guys are just work bees. I don't have that, so I think I wouldn't say that I love the game any less. I'm just not as obsessed as they are. Like they're full blown obsessed with golf. Like
It's the way they've
it's
been
pretty.
trained
Yep,
to play.
it's pretty
That's the way they've been
impressive.
training college
Yep.
and everywhere else. Yeah. Well, there must be something on the horizon for you guys. I have a feeling. I just have a good feeling that things are going in the right direction. And I'm just guessing from what you said, there's going to be a little less travel in the summer months when we start seeing the European Masters and
Yep.
the course that you love. Tell us about your love affair with Cran-sur-Sierre in
Oh
Switzerland. What do they
yeah,
play
I
there?
can't wait for that one, man. And what's going to be cool is obviously, so Corey hasn't been to many places in Europe. He's been to Spain he's been to like London. And everyone's excited for the European team. Like you hear it all the time, like through all the players out on the tour. They always talk, I can't wait to get back to Europe. Like this is so hard traveling all over the place. Like it is really like actually proper difficult to get to all these first events of the year. Like it's unbelievable. And so you hear it all the time, and Corey's getting more and more excited. We have the Turkish Airlines Open next week in Turkey, which is you're getting closer to Europe, right? And then I have an Alps tour event in Austria, and then we have forgot what the tournament's called, but we go to Belgium, and then we go to back to Austria in Salzburg, a beautiful golf course. It's going to look really good on TV. Company that I have a very close relationship out there is actually sponsoring it and putting that tournament on. And then we go to the Netherlands, and like that's those three travel tournaments are going to be so easy. Like you just, it's going to take an hour to get to each place, and not 2 days. But Franz Thier, he's really excited about the most because that's the one probably the most recognizable on the tour. That and Wentworth probably, right? And his girlfriend's gonna come. She's never been there, so like it's gonna be a great week. Like we've already booked our Airbnb way in advance. I think he's gonna play really well out there. I think that course suits him. It's quirky. It's not particularly long and it seems like it's going to be really easy when you're out there, but scores are never 20 under to win. It's always like 13 under, and I think he can do that. That course he has a very, very good chance on. But I think the most excited that I am personally for that I think he's going to do best at is the Alfred Dunhill at St. Andrews, Carnoustie, and Kingsbarns. I think he's going to play really well on a links course. His game suits the links style course the most. I think.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to take it and wrap up. I would like to have a little info about this pecking order you talked about because it seems like there's two things going on. First of all, he gets his card. Obviously, he's got privileges, but you said that it's changed a little bit. So we'll talk about
Yep.
that. And also, but you feel like he's going to get into these events. So I'm a little confused. Do you think he's going to get in, or do you know like he's going to be
No,
definitely in those events?
we know. So the the DP World Tour has like added other categories for like former PGA Tour players, and they added like 10 spots on the Challenge Tour from the last couple of years. And so the Q School guys have category, I believe it's 18. And so they add all these different categories, and it's pushing our category down. So Corey finished like 11th in Q School. Then after having a top 10 in Mauritius, he was the number two. He re-ranked in the same category. You can't re-rank out like higher up in your category unless you win. So you're always stuck in this category. And in the beginning of the year, all the tournaments are like 132, 124. They're limited, smaller fields. And so his category, like even when he was number two on the money list, like he's an alternate. And we were alternate so many times this year. And the first one was extra brutal. It was the Ras Al Khaimah. We went all the way to Dubai. We were second alternate with a week to go, and we never got in. So that means, you know, I eat the cost as a caddy, and then Corey eats his cost. So I'm losing money, and it's just really difficult as a player to be in this alternate list. And that's the guy who's number two on his category. So if the person who finished 15th in Q School and didn't play those Australia events that were right after Q School and like didn't make the cut, they haven't even had a start yet. Like I think they probably just started this last week. Like and so they've missed 13 tournaments already, and they're so far behind the eight ball. Like and a crazy amount of points to keep your card now. Like it's going to take a Herculean effort. So yeah, so we didn't get into that one. We got into Bahrain as an alternate. We were first alternate, and we were on the range at like 6:30 in the morning. And then there was a guy next to us, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are the first alternates, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, you're in the field. My guy's ankle hurt." And so that's how we got in. And then he made the cut, and so that helps us on our category more, right? And then so we got into Qatar because of that, and he missed the cut there. And then we got into Kenya where because it was like top 10 in his category got in. And there's 20 guys who have their card through Q School, so there's still 10 guys who haven't even got a start yet after getting through Q School full status. So it's really unfair, I think, and there's been a lot of complaints, and the tour is, I think, going to have to really make an adjustment, and I think they are, because it's not fair for the Q School guys. Because we just did the China, and in our first event in Shanghai, we were second alternate, did not get in either. So that's another, $2,000 gone, more for him than me. And then we go to Heiko and miss the cut, and so anyways, this leads to why I'm here in Osaka is because I only have X amount of money, so flying home would have cost $900 from China, and then I would have had to spend about 900 to fly to Turkey. So I would have been home for 4 days, jet lag, and then fly to Turkey. And so I looked all over the world to be like, okay, where can I go to just save as much money as possible? I mean, and if I wanted to fly straight to Turkey from there, I would have been a 53-hour travel day, overnight layovers in Kuwait, maybe one in Mongolia or something, like all these crazy places that like on airlines you've never heard about, you know? And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I found a flight to from Shanghai to here for $88, which was great. And then I got this hotel, a little small one, for about 250. And then I got a flight from Osaka to Istanbul for 370, and then a flight from Istanbul to Antalya for $65. So it's going to be 25-hour travel, but so I go from here to Chengdu, China, 6-hour layover, and then 10-hour flight to Istanbul, then 2-hour layover, and then flight to Antalya. Then I got to rent the car and get our Airbnb, and we're off to the next tournament, just like that, straight to the golf course.
That is mind-boggling, Blair.
Yeah,
It
but it
has
literally
got my
saved me a
head
thousand
spinning.
dollars. Saved me a
Yeah,
thousand dollars doing this.
and I know you enjoy nice places and nice food, and I'm guessing you can find that there. Have some sushi, have
Yeah,
some hot tea for me, and sing some karaoke. You
I
deserve
did. I
it.
did actually. I already did. I did that last night. It was fun.
What's your karaoke song?
So I like Country Roads from John Denver is my go-to song.
Did you get sing along from the crowd on that one? That's a good one for the crowd to sing with you.
They knew the song, but they weren't really singing along. They were just kind of going, "Oh, Sugoi, come by."
Yeah,
It's
well, they
a,
like your American singing on that. Yeah, it's one of the great. It loosens people up. You know, it's just a
yeah.
great
And
door opener. And
Japan is a
yeah,
special place.
karaoke.
I've been lucky enough to be here before. I've never been to Osaka, but I've been to Tokyo, and this is considered the the country's kitchen. This is where the best food is in all of Japan. So this is a great alternative. As much as I wanted to go home, I'm all right with avoiding a little bit of jet lag and $1,000 saved. So this is where I'm at
No, you had
until the day
said to
after
me.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you had said to me it was a good time for a podcast, and you're clear-eyed. You've been wonderful to spend some time on AmateurGolf.com. And what I'd like to do is do this again as the
Cool.
season goes forward a little bit. And in the meantime, one of my favorite things is to wake up in the morning when I know the time zones, and that's going to be when they start moving into Europe, where you can figure,
Yep.
okay, 6:30 in the morning, Golf Channel or whatever, you're watching live golf,
Yeah.
especially like on a weekend sometimes before you go out and play yourself.
Yeah.
So
It's nice,
I'll be
isn't
doing
it?
some of that, and I'll be looking for Corey Shaun. Is it Shaun?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking for Corey Shaun, and I know anybody that listened to this podcast is going to look for him as well. And you'll know Blair McKiethan, golfer and caddy. Thanks for being on the Amateur Golf Podcast.
It was my pleasure, Pete. Thanks for having me.